to Annapolis Mosaics. Our program spotlights people in our community who are involved in activities intended to promote good human relations. I am Michael Keller, your host and the chair of the Annapolis Human Relations Commission. The commission is a city board that seeks to promote equal opportunity and to eliminate discrimination. My guests today are Kim Hinken and Wayne Schwent from the Chesapeake Pride Festival. Kim and Wayne, welcome to Annapolis Mosaics.
Thank you.
Well, could you tell our viewers about the Chesapeake Pride Festival, how it got started, why, what groups are involved, and you know, a little bit about the history of the festival and who all gets involved in it.
Well,
the festival is 12 years old this year. It was started by the community I founded here, which at that point was Metropolitan Community Church of the Chesapeake, and we were very interested in helping build community among the gay and lesbian, transgendered, bisexual parts of the greater Chesapeake Bay area. And we thought the best way to help build community was to have an event that was fun and community-oriented and playful. And over the years, it's grown into a much bigger festival, which I'll have you speak to.
yes, I actually went to one of the festivals as a visitor, and that's where I met Wayne and became very involved with the church that Wayne is involved with, and also started to take on a little more responsibility as far as Pride was concerned. I thought it was a great idea, and we just happened upon it. We saw a sign on the side of the road and thought, wow, a Pride? A Pride here in Annapolis? That's really cool. So it was great to find it. It was great to find it. It turned out to be about 650 people when I think they expected quite a few.
Fewer.
Yeah. And, you know, since then, our committee has, our planning committee has grown, and also it's shrunk a little bit. We're now down to 7 people that plan the Pride Festival. And the numbers of attendees has grown, certainly. This past weekend, we had our Pride Festival on the 20th, and we have it at Mayo Beach Park in Edgewater, Maryland. And we had approximately 820 people come to the festival. So that was a great number for us.
What kinds of activities go on at the festival? What happens at the festival?
Well,
What do you got there?
We have lots of things.
Well, tell us about it.
We had nearly 50 exhibitors this year, which included as diverse exhibitors as a pine birdhouse salesperson. Gabby's Birds was a wonderful, he had a great spot, and I really was excited about his pine birdhouses. And a lot of socially conscious and political groups. The libertarians are always there. The Young Democrats of Maryland were there this year, the Green Party, food vendors, clothing vendors, T-shirts, jewelry.
Lots of nonprofit organizations working with the community, several different transgender groups reaching out to the community. We also have a couple politicians that sometimes wander through, don't necessarily tell us that they're there, but they wander through.
And I think a surprising number of churches now wanting to reach out to the GLBT community, which when we started, we were the only church. My church now is called Evolved Chesapeake, and we're still there, of course. We're the prime sponsor of Chesapeake Pride. But there were other communities there, 3 other church communities there this year, which was great. So we have quite a diversity.
It is, and it's, I think the word is spreading, and we're getting more and more people from the area. People from all over come to our Pride simply because it's on the beach and you can swim. You can bring your kids and have a good time. The live music, all the good food, and meet with your friends and just have a good day of fun.
And you know what? No Pride would be complete without a drag show.
Right, we do have a drag show.
So, I mean, I think that's, at one point in the afternoon, I thought, where is everybody? There's no one here. And then I went to the pavilion, and there were hundreds of people watching the drag show. So,
that was quite entertaining.
Quite entertaining and quite lively.
Yes, definitely.
But it's definitely there. So.
And how about other performers? I'm sure you've got lots of those too, and entertainers.
Yes, we have.
Give me some examples of some.
Well, a regular and an Annapolitan is Doug Day. Okay. He plays every year for us. We had Opal Sky this year, which is a popular band from Baltimore. Also, Angie Miller, who you see locally a lot. She's quite good. And we have an MC that's been coming down from Towson for quite some time now. He's with a radio station up there, and he's very entertaining. Keeps the crowd going, which is great. The drag show is always done by a good friend of ours, and a good friend to the community, Stormy Vane. She puts together quite an array of entertainers. It's good.
Yes, quite an array. I think that sums it up very well.
Well, you know, in looking at your website for the event, I noticed quite a number of sponsors that have signed up for it.
We do. We have people that are
a respectable number. It really was.
It is. They're concerned with our community. Yes.
Some big corporations were there.
Unfortunately, most of the corporations, and it's probably due to the economy, don't give us money. They give us services or goods, which helps a great deal. Like, you know, we can't thank Bud Light or Barefoot Wine enough for what they do for us. And just having Metro Diner, for instance, gave us free food. The Sly Fox Pub gave us some free food for our river cruise that we did for the first time this year, and I hope we'll do again next year. Just, you know, a lot of good people doing a lot of good things. Trader Joe's, for instance, gave us water for our volunteers, which is a big help. I mean, people don't realize how much those little things mean a lot to us. Because we're such a smaller Pride, being only 7 people in the committee, we're very limited in what we can do. We all work very, very hard to put on a good event, but it can be difficult to get the money to put it together because we are funded 100%.
One thing that I think is important to ask, and that is, this is an event that you do every year. Is that correct? This is an annual event for.
Yes.
And while we're not going to get into specific dates, obviously, is this something that you usually do in August of each year? In August of each year, and so this is an annual event that people can sort of be looking for and putting on their calendars and saying, you know, looking ahead to this event, that they can pretty much depend that this is an annual event that they can take part in and participate in. Why do you think an event like the Chesapeake Pride Festival is an important activity in the Annapolis area? Why is it important to have this?
I think it harkens back to our reason for starting Pride in the first place, that so many parts of the community are very disjointed, and people live lives of quiet desperation, I think, sometimes, don't find other people to be with, don't think other people are out there like them. And this just gives a perfect opportunity in a laid-back, lovely setting of Mayo Beach Park to come together and have the greatest gay pride in Maryland outside of Baltimore. I'm very proud that that's really who we are. There is no other Pride Festival outside of Baltimore in Maryland, and we're it. Was that enough to make you smile?
That was a lot to make me smile.
Okay. Wayne, you made reference earlier to a church-related or a church organization called Evolve Chesapeake.
Yes.
What's that? What's that about?
Evolve Chesapeake is a progressive independent church that is grounded in creation spirituality and pretty non-traditional Christian thought. But we're open to everyone who wants to celebrate their path of spirituality and find a place to thrive in that.
Is there anything else you'd like to add in terms of things that go on with the church? Any activities or?
Our main event, I think, is our weekly gathering for worship on Sunday evenings, and we have educational programs and outreach programs throughout the year, but they vary so much it'd be hard to really pin them down.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to take a break now, but when we return, I will be speaking with Wayne and Kim about some of the issues that are of interest and concern to gays, lesbians, transgender, and bisexual people in Anne Arundel County. Talking today with Kim Hinken and Wayne Schwant from the Chesapeake Pride Festival. The Annapolis Human Relations Commission has been very, very involved in responding to hate crimes and hate incidents which have occurred in the city of Annapolis. Something we've given a lot of attention to. A few years ago, we joined our county counterparts in sponsoring the Southern Poverty Law Center, which came down and did a full-day seminar for us on the subject. We have a series of protocol. We've got a protocol agreement with the Annapolis Police where if there's a hate crime or hate incident, they report it to us so that we can follow up with the individuals who are victimized by it. Maryland, just in the last couple of years, added acts against gays and lesbians to its hate crimes statute. To what extent has this been a problem, either locally or in Maryland, to your knowledge? And I know it is a problem. I sort of somewhat of a loaded question because I actually have seen the statistics that there are acts that are reported by the Maryland State Police that have been perpetrated against gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual people.
It goes. It includes the most simple act of prejudice of calling somebody a faggot on the street. And that happens in Annapolis. It's happened as people sit at a stoplight and have some hateful epithet spewed at them when they're doing nothing. And I just think the community not understanding its own diversity and being tolerant of that diversity, I think it's fortunate that there isn't a lot of physical violence against people in Annapolis, but I'm sure that happens also. I think just trying to continue to create an environment of tolerance and understanding of one another is so important in this world.
And I think that it happens more frequently than we know. I mean, there are a lot of incidents that simply aren't reported, and a lot of incidents that, such as, someone calling out faggot to someone on a street corner. I have a discussion with my nephews not too long ago about them referring to each other as, oh, you're so gay. And it's a negative way of referring to, a group of people, and it's not right. It gives the wrong idea. I mean, parents could do a lot by, if they hear their kids using that in a negative way, they should say something, But just, I think if more people reported those incidents, it'd probably be better.
And this may not be someplace you want to go, but both Kim and I have attended the recent hearings on marriage equality in the state of Maryland. While that's not a Annapolis-specific event, it happens in Annapolis.
We're going to be going there before the interview's over.
Okay, and I just think that the language that I have heard used against the gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered community in those hearings is appalling. I mean, appalling is not strong enough to talk about the stuff that comes out of people's mouths when talking about fellow human beings and citizens. The intolerance is palatable, and the hatred is palatable. And I just find it disgusting that particularly my fellow clergy people will use such venomous language against others in the community. I've heard people speak about their transgendered children as though they're subhuman and not, almost shouldn't be allowed to live because they're considering that they are transgendered children. And I just, it's disgusting.
Well, on a related matter is that Maryland also, just in the last few years, added to its anti-discrimination laws protections for gays and for lesbians. In other words, acts of discrimination in public accommodations, in housing, in education, in recreation, and in other areas of public life in Maryland is outlawed under state law. So we really got two questions. One, to what extent is this a problem? And I might mention the City Human Relations Commission handles complaints of discrimination. We get them all the time, and we have ways of dealing with it, mostly through mediation, but we do have some other enforcement authority in certain types of discrimination, especially fair housing. I've been on the commission since 1996. We have never received a single discrimination complaint based on sexual orientation. Never received one. So again, I have two questions. One, to what extent is there discrimination, either locally or in Maryland, to your knowledge, based on sexual orientation, and how does it occur? And then the second question is, to what extent do you believe that the current law is adequate in terms of coverage? It's my understanding the law covers gays and lesbians. So, could you address that?
Well, to give you an instance, we put signs out for our Pride Festival, and last year some of the signs were taken down and other signs were put up that had really derogatory language on them. And this year a number of our signs, and this is the night before, we put them out rather late the night before and someone goes to the trouble of going out and taking our signs and throwing them in the trash, I know that Maryland has worked very hard and it's a slow process, but I have difficulty understanding why there even has to be, why it's such an issue for me to have my human rights. I know that we've come a long way with gay and lesbian rights, but you know, my transgender friends need protection also, and I don't feel that they have that. You know, some of the hate that I've heard, and like Wayne said, when we were at the hearings, I mean, we were referred to in a very derogatory way. It was shocking. It was shocking to know that there are other people that I consider my brothers and sisters on this planet that refer to us as if we're animals, or below animals, really. There's no call for that. We have families, we love each other, we love people, we do things for the community, we're very giving. I don't understand that mentality. I also don't understand why during the hearings that some religious leaders are allowed to stand and speak about their religious beliefs when there should be this separation of church and state. I don't feel it's the right forum for them to use that as a way to spew their hate from their religious views.
You mentioned earlier this issue, Wayne, and I'm going to come back to it. The issue of marriage equality is very important to the gay and lesbian community. Explain why.
There are thousands of laws that apply to a couple in a relationship if they are considered married. And without those protections, it is very difficult to protect one's relationship from simple things like being able to visit each other if you're in the hospital, being able to act on the other's behalf without a whole bunch of legal documents providing power of attorney and medical directives and so forth. It also just legitimates the relationship that people have with each other from a civil perspective. It doesn't have to be, I mean, I'm in the business of spirituality, so I bless relationships all the time in the name of divinity. But if the legal protections are also there for a couple, it is very helpful. It's helpful for children. My son disowned me when I refused to renounce my homosexuality. He's now 40. The last time I saw him, he was 12. And it's predominantly the role of the church in his life that has taught him that his father is an abomination in the eyes of God. My 12-year-old son said those words to me, quoting Leviticus. I don't think that it is right for the state to adopt any standard based on some book of Scripture, whatever that is inhumane and condemns any part of society. And we have to be careful about that fine line between our personal belief system and public policy. And I think the public policy always has to be for justice and inclusion and everybody's rights. And it's a fine line to walk, but I do think it's the American standard.
Mm-hmm. Looking ahead to the next few years, what kinds of other issues or activities is the gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual community interested in promoting? Are there other things that you're into? Are there other things that you really are looking ahead to?
I think that one of the things that's exciting about Pride this year is that we really did end up with a three-prong event. We had a riverboat cruise on the West River the Saturday before Pride. We had a program on Tuesday night before Pride concerning transgendered issues, and had somebody from Oklahoma here to speak about that, who's been a political and social activist both for peace and for transgender rights. And then the big Pride Festival. I think that we will see a continuing growth of Pride activities in Annapolis. We hope maybe 2012 will be the year we finally have a gay Pride parade up Main Street and celebrate Pride in a very public way in Annapolis. I think that, I hope there are parties, and I hope that other gay organizations in the community will say, well, we want to sponsor our own thing as a part of Chesapeake Pride Week, and we'll do the planning and make it happen. And I hope it becomes a bigger and bigger festival.
Is there a telephone number or website that if people want more information, our viewers are interested in?
A very difficult one called ChesapeakePrideFestival.org.
Okay.
That would be really the place to go for information.
There's
Okay.
a lot of useful information and resources there.
All right. Thank you for viewing our program today, and please join us again on Annapolis Mosaics. If you would like to have more information about the Annapolis Human Relations Commission, please jot down the information that's on your screen. You can reach us at 410-263-7998 or by email at hrcommission@annapolis.gov. Or you can check out our page at the City of Annapolis website at www.annapolis.gov. Click on the icon that reads Boards and Commissions, and then scroll down to the Human Relations Commission page. And always remember the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We have flown the air like birds and swum the seas like fishes, but have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth as brothers and sisters." Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.